A doctor gazed out of her office window at the dusky, twilight sky, her mind heavy with the weight of the day's research. As a neuroscientist specializing in sleep disorders, she had long been fascinated by the intricate dance between dreams and the brain. Yet, a recent surge of troubling data had cast a shadow over her work, one that she could not ignore. Nightmares and dementia, she murmured to herself, the words like a sinister chant echoing in the quiet room. The connection was subtle but undeniable, a thread woven through the stories of countless patients. The phone on her desk buzzed, jolting her from her reverie. She picked it up, recognizing the voice on the other end immediately. It was one of her male colleagues from the neurology department. "Have you seen the latest patient records?" he asked. "The correlation is stronger than we thought," he said with urgency. "I've been going through them all day," she responded. "And it's unsettling, to say the least. We need more data, more comprehensive studies." "I agree," her colleague said. "But first we need to talk to some of these patients directly. Get their stories, understand their experiences." "You're right," the doctor replied. "I'll start with Mrs. Williams. Her case stands out." The doctor arrived at the small, cozy apartment of one of her patients, Mrs. Agnes Williams, a sprightly woman in her late 70s. Despite her age, Agnes had always been sharp and full of life, until recently. Her family had noticed a decline, subtle at first, but now alarmingly pronounced. "Thank you for coming," Agnes said to the doctor, her voice trembling slightly as she ushered the doctor into the living room. "I've been having these terrible nightmares. They feel so real, like they're happening all over again." The doctor nodded, her expression compassionate. "Tell me about them, Mrs. Williams. What do you see?" Agnes took a deep breath, her eyes clouding with fear. "It always starts the same. I'm back in my childhood home, the one that burned down when I was 10. I can hear the crackling of the fire, smell the smoke. I try to run, but I'm frozen, paralyzed with fear. Then, just before the flames reach me, I wake up, drenched in sweat." The doctor jotted down notes, her mind racing with possibilities. "Have you noticed any changes in your memory or cognitive abilities recently?" Agnes nodded slowly. "Yes, small things at first. Forgetting names, misplacing items. But it's getting worse. Sometimes I can't remember where I am or why I walked into a room." The doctor's heart sank. The patterns were becoming clear. "Thank you for sharing this with me, Mrs. Williams. I believe your nightmares and memory issues might be connected. We're going to look into this further." After speaking with all the patients, the doctor and her colleague pored over the patient records, each case more compelling than the last. The nightmares varied in detail, but shared a common thread of intense fear and vividness. And with each nightmare, the onset of dementia seemed to creep closer. "Look at this," her colleague said to her, pointing to a graph that showed the frequency of nightmares against cognitive decline. "The correlation is almost linear. The more frequent the nightmares, the faster the decline." Nodding, she said, "We need to understand why this is happening. What's the mechanism? Could it be stress hormones, the disruption of sleep cycles, or something else entirely?" "We need a controlled study," her colleague said. "MRI scans, sleep studies, the works." The comprehensive study commenced, involving several participants, all of whom experienced frequent nightmares and early signs of cognitive decline. The participants underwent a series of tests, including MRI scans, sleep studies, and cognitive assessments. The results were staggering. The MRI scans revealed that those with frequent nightmares had significant reductions in the volume of the hippocampus, the brain region crucial for memory and learning. Sleep plays a vital role in maintaining cognitive health. It is during sleep that the brain consolidates memories, processes information, and clears out toxins. Disruptions in sleep, particularly in the REM stage, have been associated with cognitive decline and an increased risk of neurodegenerative diseases. While it is well established that sleep disturbances are common in individuals with dementia, emerging research suggests that frequent nightmares may also be a risk factor for developing the disease. This hypothesis is supported by several lines of evidence, the first being longitudinal studies. Long-term studies have shown that individuals who experience frequent nightmares in middle age are more likely to develop cognitive decline and dementia in later life. For example, a study published in the journal Sleep found that older adults who reported frequent distressing dreams were at a higher risk of cognitive decline over a period of several years. The second is biological mechanisms. Nightmares and REM sleep disturbances may contribute to neurodegenerative processes through several biological mechanisms. Chronic sleep disruption can lead to increased inflammation, oxidative stress, and impaired clearance of brain toxins, all of which are associated with cognitive decline. The third line of evidence is genetic factors. Genetic predispositions that increase the risk of both sleep disturbances and dementia could also play a role. For example, variations in the APOE gene, which is associated with an increased risk of Alzheimer's disease, have been linked to sleep disturbances, including nightmares. As the study progressed, the doctor and her colleagues started incorporating mindfulness techniques into their study. They divided the participants into two groups, one practicing mindfulness techniques and the other continuing with their usual routines. The results were promising. The mindfulness group reported fewer nightmares and showed less cognitive decline. Their MRI scans revealed a slower rate of hippocampal shrinkage and more stable REM sleep patterns. This suggests that by addressing the underlying stress and improving sleep quality through mindfulness, it is possible to potentially slow the progression of cognitive decline. The link between nightmares and dementia is a complex and evolving area of research. While sleep disturbances, including nightmares, are common in individuals with dementia, emerging evidence suggests that frequent nightmares may also be a risk factor for developing the disease. Understanding this relationship is crucial for developing effective strategies for dementia prevention and management.